here for hours," sobbed Emily, the CEO's daughter, her voice trembling as she sank onto the cold sidewalk. The city lights reflected in the puddles around her, neon signs flickering in the distance, but no one paid attention.
Thirsty? I have an extra bottle.
Impatiently, tires
Nope. All right,
splashing
stay
through
dry.
rainwater.
This rain
and
is
pedestrians
relentless.
hurried past, too absorbed in their own lives to notice a young woman crying alone. Her phone had died hours ago, leaving her isolated in the chaos. The wind whipped through her hair, making her shiver, and the heavy coat she wore offered little comfort against the biting February chill. Emily hugged her knees to her chest, trying to hold back tears, feeling utterly invisible. Her life, she realized, was usually filled with luxury and privilege. Her father's fortune made sure she never lacked anything. But right now in this city street, surrounded by strangers, none of that mattered. Money couldn't buy compassion or attention. She felt a hollow ache in her chest, the kind only loneliness can create. Just as she was about to surrender to despair, a shadow fell over her. A young man, maybe in his early 20s, stopped in front of her. He wore a simple backpack and a plain jacket, his hair damp from the drizzle. He didn't speak at first. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out a bottle of water, offering it to her with a gentle smile. Emily froze, unsure what to do. Why would a stranger care? But the sincerity in his eyes softened her defenses. "Here, you look cold," he said finally, his voice calm and kind. "Sit down." Take a sip. Hesitant, Emily accepted the bottle. The water was lukewarm but soothing, and the simple act of kindness cracked open something inside her. She let out a shaky breath, feeling the weight of hours lift slightly. He sat beside her on the edge of the curve. Not too close, not too distant. A perfect balance. I didn't know what else to do," Emily whispered, dabbing at her wet cheeks. "You don't have to explain," he replied. "Sometimes people just need a moment." That's all. For the first time that night, Emily felt seen. She had always been surrounded by people who wanted something from her. Attention favors connections, but this stranger asked for nothing. No pretense, no judgment, just genuine care. Her sobs subsided. Replaced by curiosity, they didn't talk much at first. The city hummed around them, the sirens, the chatter, the distant rumble of a subway beneath the street, and yet amid the noise, there was a calm, a small bubble of humanity between them. Emily realized that in one brief encounter, her perspective had shifted. Maybe the world wasn't always indifferent, maybe, just maybe, there were people who could change everything, without asking for anything in return. And in that moment, standing on a cold, wet sidewalk in a bustling American city, Emily's world began to shift, one small act of kindness at a time. Emily took a deep breath, finally letting herself relax a little. As the young man stayed quietly beside her, his name she would later learn was Alex, there was something calm about him, a quiet confidence that made her feel safe. Without needing to explain herself, he didn't ask why she was there, what had happened, or even who she was. He simply offered his presence, and that was enough. "Do you need me to call someone?" Alex asked gently, his hands tucked into his jacket pockets. Emily hesitated. Normally, she could summon a fleet of drivers, assistance and security at her father's command. But tonight she felt exposed and vulnerable. She didn't want to admit she couldn't handle this on her own. Yet looking into Alex's honest eyes, she realized she could trust him. "Maybe a cab," she murmured. Without a word, he pulled out his phone, which miraculously had enough battery, and quickly booked a ride. As they waited, he didn't fill the silence with awkward chatter. Instead, he smiled, occasionally nodding at people passing by, making Emily feel like the world wasn't entirely indifferent. After a few minutes, Alex pulled out a small granola bar from his backpack. "You should eat something," he said. "Being cold and upset is exhausting." Emily laughed softly through her tears. "You're really thoughtful," he shrugged, a faint blush coloring his cheeks. "It's nothing, just common sense." I guess for the first time in hours, Emily felt lighter. She found herself talking, telling Alex small things about her day, little anecdotes she usually kept to herself. He listened attentively, never interrupting, never judging. There was a patience in him, a sense that he was fully present, and it comforted her more than any luxury she had ever known. By the time the cab arrived, Emily realized she didn't want the moment to end. But Alex handed her a small note with his phone number, his handwriting simple and neat. "If you ever need a moment like this again," he said, shrugging awkwardly, "call me, no pressure." She nodded, feeling an unfamiliar warmth spreading through her chest. The cab drove off, but she couldn't stop thinking about the young man who had treated her like a human, not a title. Later that night, in the safety of her apartment, Emily replayed the encounter in her mind. Every small gesture, the water, the granola, the smile, felt monumental. He hadn't needed to do anything. He hadn't asked for recognition or reward, yet his actions had changed everything. She realized that kindness, genuine and unprompted, had a power she had almost forgotten existed. Emily drifted to sleep thinking of Alex, wondering how someone so ordinary could make her feel so extraordinary. And deep down she knew this was just the beginning. That one small act of empathy could ripple far beyond a single night, touching hearts in ways she never imagined. Days passed, but Emily couldn't shake the image of Alex from her mind. His kindness, so effortless and sincere, replayed in her thoughts, like a scene she wished she could live over and over. In the high-rise world of her father's business empire, life was always a rush of meetings, events, and obligations. Luxury surrounded her, but it often felt hollow. She realized something that night on the sidewalk. She had been craving authenticity, and Alex, this stranger who asked for nothing in return, represented exactly that at work. Surrounded by polished floors and gleaming glass walls, Emily found herself distracted. She watched assistants flit across the office, carrying documents and coffee orders, executives discussing numbers and strategies, and yet none of it held her attention. Her mind wandered back to Alex, the warmth in his eyes, his quiet patience. She couldn't stop wondering about his life, who he really was, what drove him, and why he had chosen, of all people, to stop and care about her late that evening. She scrolled through social media, searching for any clue about him. Her usual instinct, searching for the connections of the rich and famous, didn't help. She had to dig deeper, looking beyond status and wealth. Finally, after hours of searching, she found a small community page dedicated to a volunteer group helping the homeless downtown. And there he was, Alex, smiling as he handed out sandwiches and blankets. Emily felt a wave of admiration. His kindness wasn't a one-time gesture. It was a lifestyle, a conscious choice to care for others when no one was watching. She realized that the man who had saved her from despair had been quietly impacting the lives of dozens, maybe hundreds of people. It made her heart swell, but it also stirred a pang of envy. How had she, surrounded by privilege, almost forgotten the value of genuine human connection? The more she learned about him, the more intrigued she became. She wanted to meet him again, to see the world through his eyes, even just for a few hours. But she hesitated. How could she, the daughter of a billionaire, approach a man whose life seemed so grounded in reality, so detached from the wealth and influence she represented? Pride and caution battled with curiosity and desire. Finally, she decided she couldn't wait any longer. She needed to see him, to understand him, and maybe to let him see her beyond the facade of wealth. She sent a private message to the volunteer group, asking if she could join the next community effort. She didn't mention who she was, only that she wanted to help. The next weekend, Emily arrived at the downtown shelter early, nervous but determined, and there he was, Alex, setting up blankets, with a smile that seemed to light up even the dimly lit hall. When he looked up and saw her, she caught a flicker of recognition, a subtle surprise, but he didn't pause his work. He simply continued, offering her a spot beside him. In that moment, Emily realized something profound. It wasn't about impressing him or showing off her status. It was about being present, being genuine, and allowing herself to step into his world. She had come to discover more than his life. She had come to discover herself. Emily felt her heart race as she approached Alex at the volunteer shelter. His attention was focused entirely on the people around him, distributing blankets, helping set up warm meals. She watched him for a moment, marveling at the ease with which he connected with others. There was no pretense, no performance, just genuine care. The sight made her realize how far removed her own life often was from this reality, how insulated she had been by wealth and comfort. Alex finally noticed her, and his eyes softened into that familiar, warm expression she couldn't forget. He walked over, wiping his hands on a towel, and offered her a friendly nod. "Hey, you made it," he said, his voice calm but welcoming. "Glad you're here," Emily smiled. "Slightly nervous. I wanted to see what you do. I thought maybe I could help." He handed her a pair of gloves and a jacket. "Come on, we could use another set of hands." As they worked side by side, Emily felt a strange sense of freedom. No one here cared who she was or whose daughter she happened to be. She wasn't a CEO's daughter, an heir to a fortune, or a figure in the news. She was simply Emily, a person capable of kindness and effort, sharing space and purpose with someone she deeply admired. And Alex treated her as an equal, not with curiosity nor with judgment, just with respect and quiet warmth. Between tasks, they laughed and joked, talking about everything from music to childhood memories. Alex shared stories of growing up in a small town, of the moments that led him to volunteer work, and Emily found herself captivated not just by his kindness, but by his resilience, his perspective on life, she realized she had rarely met anyone who saw the world so clearly, yet lived it with so much heart. Hours passed quickly. The shelter emptied as the evening approached, and Emily felt a pang of disappointment. She didn't want this connection to end. Alex noticed and smiled softly. You know it's not about the hours you put in. It's about showing up, being present. That's what matters, Emily nodded, feeling the truth of his words in her chest. I get it now and I get you, she admitted quietly. Alex looked at her, a faint blush on his cheeks. You don't have to understand me completely, he said gently. You just have to be here. That's enough in that moment. Emily understood something profound. Love, respect, and connection weren't about wealth, status, or appearances. They were about presence, empathy, and shared humanity. One simple act of kindness. The bottle of water on a rainy street had started this journey, and now standing beside Alex, helping others, laughing and talking without pretense, she felt transformed when it was time to leave. They walked out together into the city night. Streetlights reflected in puddles, casting a soft glow over their path. Emily looked at Alex, her heart full, and realized that one encounter had changed everything. Her perspective, her heart, and the way she wanted to live. Sometimes she thought the smallest gestures have the greatest power, and in that power she had found not just hope, but love.